I care so much about this topic that it's a whole chapter in my book, What Hope Looks Like. Use your pain to fuel your purpose. And this topic statement is marry your mission, not your model. Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Success and Significance Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Newman. This podcast is designed for people that want to become more successful to pour out significance. So I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us today to try to do so. Before we jump into today's content, if you could subscribe wherever you're listening to. The reason is that we want this information to get into the hands of other people to make their lives better so that they can pour out significance on the world. So with all that being said, today's topic is probably one of my most favorite topics to talk about. I care so much about this topic it's a whole chapter in my book, What Hope Looks Like. Use your pain to fuel your purpose. And this topic statement is marry your mission, not your model. So we're going to dive right into it. I have a lot of information that I want to try to get to you, but we're going to try to honor your time and we're going to dive into this information. But before we do so, I want to make sure that we cover two different things into the marry the mission, not the model. What you'll learn on this podcast is that you're going to understand the difference between mission and model. And then you're going to understand, okay, if my model is becoming outdated, how can I get back on track to continue to push forward for my mission? So super stoked about this. We're going to jump right in. And so the first question that I'm going to ask is, what's the difference between the mission and the model? The mission for a business or nonprofit organization is the core purpose and the ultimate goal for the reason that the organization or the entity exists. Your mission should be the guiding star, if you will, the compass of any organization. It's the why you exist as an organization, and then the model is what you do to accomplish the mission. But to marry your mission, it's just what the word is and says. You need to, if you're getting married to your significant other, you're going to commit through thick, through thin, through richer, through poor. It is a commitment and it is a vow that you have made a decision that you are going to accomplish this mission. Your mission should also be widespread. It should be a broad stroke. It shouldn't be a mission. If you're starting a business or an organization, it shouldn't be, well, I'm going to provide 6 sandwiches to the homeless community. No, meaning that's an activity. That's not a mission. Your mission should be so broad that it's almost next to impossible to accomplish. And then on the flip side of it, with the mission side, with you marry it, then you have the model side, which the model, if you go into it, it's a specific method, it's a strategy and a process used to achieve the mission. And so, for example, for Roc Solid Foundation, the mission for Roc Solid Foundation is to love and serve the pediatric cancer community, to build hope for every child fighting pediatric cancer. Well, that's the mission. That's a broad stroke. And when we say there's 400,000 families a year that are diagnosed with cancer. So when we say we underline that, and that's what we mean. But then the model that we use to accomplish that is that we provide play sets. That's a model. We provide ready bags. That's a model. Those are the activities that we use to accomplish the mission. It's the program. The model is the program that you're creating to accomplish the mission. And there's a couple examples that I want to give you. I just shared with you the Roc Solid Foundation model and the mission of what we do. But then also, I want you to hear me on this. Apple's mission statement, if you go and look, Apple's mission statement is to provide customers with the best user experience through its hardware, software, and services. Nowhere did you hear that Apple's mission for existence, the model to be able to accomplish the mission is to produce the best iPod. Now, some of you all listening to that have no idea what even an iPod is. Imagine if Apple just stopped and continued just to create the iPod. None of us would have our smartphones that are connected at our hip. We wouldn't be connected to the world. And so imagine if Apple mission statement was to produce the best iPod possible. That is not. That is the model that they help to accomplish their mission, which is to provide customers with the best user experience through their hardware, software, and services. That's a broad stroke. The model is a very, very small stroke. And what I've learned just being in Roc Solid Foundation for the last 16 years, being in business for 15 years before that, is a lot of organizations abandon the mission for the sake of the model. I want to say that again. A lot of organizations abandon the mission for the sake of the model. Well, what does that mean? It means that they are so fixated on the model that they lose themselves in that. They're putting all their efforts into the model where the mission is off to the side. But guess what? Models change. Models have to change or that you will become obsolete in dealing with the mission that you're doing. And I know that this is a little back and forth mission and model, but to marry your mission, you got to be devoted. And then the model, you have to be creative and you have to be willing not to abandon your mission, but you have to be willing to abandon the models to continue to accomplish the mission. Why do most people not abandon the models and they choose to abandon the mission? It's because the models take a lot of effort. The models typically have to do with people's job, their roles, their responsibilities in the organization. Some organizations, in pursuit of efficiency, profitability, and growth, they prioritize their operational needs over top of the mission itself. And then that leads to foundational collapse. That can lead to short-term gains, which in business is short-term, which is fine. But when you're planning and trying to survive, listen, the idea, the reason that you're in business or that you have a nonprofit is that you want to survive and to thrive in whatever it is that you've decided to do. If you choose to marry your model above your mission, that is short-term gains, which is very easy to accomplish. It's very easy to focus on, but you're losing track on the long-term side. And if you're a nonprofit and you're listening to this, marry your mission, not your model. A lot of board of directors out there are very stagnant, especially if they don't have roll-off terms. And what that means is if you've had a board member for life, they like the good old days, right? They don't like to change. Why? Because change is hard. Change is difficult. I've never met anyone that says that they like change. Now, I'm the biggest change agent for Roc Solid Foundation. I don't think that I love change. Change is uncomfortable, but I love the fact of what change produces. And so most people continue to die in their organization with their model, and the board of directors is so stuck in what they believe that the model is supposed to be that they're failing to accomplish the actual mission because they're becoming stagnant in the model. So a prime example, so we just talked about Apple, that is someone that is able to adjust and to adapt. They're married to their mission, and then their models continue to improve, and they make their mission better. A prime example of someone that chose to not marry their mission, but they chose to marry their model, and I did a little bit of research on it. I don't know if you know who Blockbuster is. Blockbuster was a rental company that where you would go. I grew up in the early 90s, so I remember going on Fridays, waiting, looking behind. It was DVD, or it wasn't even DVDs. It was VHS that you would rent a movie, and then you would take it home. You would watch the movie, then you would bring it back. But the thing is, you never knew what you were going to get when you went to the movie theater, or to the Blockbuster store. So then you would wait by the drop box to see if the movies would come in. That's just a little FYI. Blockbuster was a retail box store that would rent videos to the general public. So this was their mission statement, which is pretty weird, or pretty crazy that they chose to fail. But their mission was to provide convenient home entertainment through a wide selection of rental movies. Their model focus was they were resilient on the physical retail stores. But what happened with Blockbuster is because they were so inundated, because what they were doing at that immediate time was working. People were flooding to their stores, they were renting videos, and people were bringing it back. They were making a lot of money. But what starts to happen is that money, when you're in a boardroom, for-profit, nonprofit, those are dollar figures, right, that you're paying attention to. And so what I imagine, I don't know if this is true, but what I imagine is someone was in the boardroom and at Blockbuster, and they raised their hand and they said, "Hey guys, have y'all ever heard of this little company, Netflix?" And so the board of directors are like, no, we're not worried about it. We're making so much money on this that we're going to choose to go all in on these retail stores, and we're going to ignore Netflix because they don't have a single idea of what they're doing. Now, you listening to this today, like, you know who Netflix is. You may not have known who Blockbuster was. But the reality of is that Netflix chose to marry their mission, which is almost the exact same mission statement as Blockbuster. You can still do this. If Blockbuster would have been able to transition to streaming and renting movies at these little kiosks instead of having the people come to them, they would have been able to survive. So it's Netflix's mission statement could be this: provide convenient home entertainment through a wide selection of rental movies. Now, some of this streaming service you don't have to rent, but some of it you do have to rent. So the reason that I'm camping out on this Blockbuster side, they're the two same things: convenient rental movies. One of them chose to die on their model. The other one chose to rise off of Blockbuster's model, but tweak it along the way. And Netflix continues to strive and survive and tweak their model along the way. So with this, we as organizational leaders and people that are running nonprofits and businesses, we have to be able to adapt to an already existing changing world. We have to. If you continue to die on the model or continue to focus on the model, I promise you, you will get left behind. And so if you're listening to this and you're a brand new nonprofit or you're a brand new business, you're like, hey, Eric, there's no way that my model is outdated because we've been doing this for 6 months. I want to tell you, the moment that you start to launch a new product or a new mission with a model attached to it, the moment that you launch, you're already outdated. The world is moving at a rapid pace. Your customers are changing at a rapid rate with AI coming in, with all of this business to business, customer to business, Amazon disrupting everything. Your model has instantly been outdated by the time that you go into service. Now, I'm not telling you to evaluate, or I'm not telling you to leave the model, but I am encouraging you, don't have that statement that you're not outdated. Because even with a new program that we're working on at Roc Solid Foundation, we've been in beta testing for about a year now. What we started a year ago is now starting to become outdated because the world is moving so fast. So how do you, if you're in that segment of you're like, okay, we've drifted a little bit away from our mission, but now we want to be able to focus and get back to our mission, how do you adapt and how do you change your model so that you can continue to get back into your mission? What are some of the ways that we can do as leaders of organizations and people that are striving for significance? What are some of the things that we can do to make sure that we stay married to our mission and not our model? One of the statements that I cannot stand, and it is a very quick way to see the other side of me, is that this statement right here is the death to any organization. It's always been done that way. If you have someone in your organization, if you have a board member or you have a staff or you have a friend that is like, well, we've always done it that way, we need to continue to do it that way, please pause. And I would just encourage you to not run, but evaluate who you have around you. That is a no-no in Roc Solid Foundation, is that it's always been done this way. No matter what, if it's a board meeting, staff meeting, if we're looking for new creative ideas to be married to our mission, that statement is a number one sign that you are married to your model and not your mission. The other thing that you can do to make sure that you're married to your mission, not your model, is that you review the numbers. Listen, numbers don't lie. And I'm not telling you that numbers give the whole photo or the whole picture, but numbers are very good data to see if you are moving in the right direction. In the nonprofit world, with no money, no mission. So you have to evaluate the numbers to make sure that, hey, listen, the cost of what we've been doing the last couple of years has risen, but if we can continue to rise with our impact and rise with the expenses, then maybe we're doing something right. But if you're sitting here and your organization has been doing the same model for the last 15 years and the cost has been going up and the impact of how you or what you accomplish your mission is going down, then you are more married to your model than you are to your mission. And you need to evaluate the impact numbers and you need to evaluate your budget numbers. The other thing is you need to talk to your customers. So even though Roc Solid Foundation is a nonprofit organization, we have customers. Our customers are kids fighting pediatric cancer. And as the CEO, as the leader of this organization, my job is to make sure we pour out as much money to my client, to my customers as possible, that we raise as much money as possible to be able to pour out the significance to kids fighting cancer. So you need to make sure that you pay attention to the numbers. The other thing that is extremely important to do to continue to stay married to your mission, not your model, is to have an annual evaluation meeting. And so if it's just you and one other person that's running your nonprofit, then guess what? You two have an annual evaluation meeting to what your product or what your mission, or what your model is accomplishing. So in those meetings, first of all, you need to ask your customers. We just talked about that. Send out surveys. Now, do not send out blanketed surveys like, did we do a good job? Check yes or no. We used to do that for the first couple of years of Roc Solid Foundation. We get all this return information, but then it was just like all thumbs up, excellent, everything is working. That's not the point of surveys. The point of surveys is to reiterate that you're doing right, but the points of surveys are to show you what you're not doing right so that you can improve for your customer. So send out some surveys. A great way that we use at Roc Solid Foundation, we send out surveys and we also offer like a free Stanley Cup or enter a drawing to win. If you fill out this survey, you go in to enter a drawing to win a brand new Stanley Cup. We do that. Why? Because that data is so important for us to make sure that we are married to our mission, not our model. So make sure you're sending out surveys before this evaluation meeting. Then the next is stop and ask, are we accomplishing our mission? So A, you got to know what your mission is, but B, just ask like straight up, are we accomplishing the mission at Roc Solid Foundation team? Are we moving the ball forward to love and serve every child fighting pediatric cancer? Stop and ask the question and ask the people in the room that will be in this meeting with you. The other thing which is very, very good for someone to evaluate any type of mission that they're doing or models that they're working on is a SWOT analysis. And a SWOT analysis is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. In any organization and any business, there are always strengths, there's always weaknesses, there's always opportunities, and there are always threats. Identify those before the meeting or actually during the meeting, and then talk it over as a team. Then the next one, these are the two questions that I love asking our staff and love asking our team is 1 year from now, what is the worst case scenario if we were to remove this program, this model from Roc Solid Foundation? Then the other question is, what is the best case scenario if we continue to do this model, this programming? What is the best case scenario? And see what comes out of that evaluation. And I promise you, if you can look at it, exit yourself out of the moment in the mix of all the chaos of what you're doing, if you can extract yourself, take your time, and have this evaluation meeting, I promise you it will make the road to success a lot easier to marrying your mission and not your model. What you do is the last step is to have the hard conversation. Now, hard conversations are extremely challenging. They're called hard conversations for a reason. You cannot back down. You have to be solely married to your mission to where you're willing to have the hard conversations of like, hey guys, I don't think that this is working. Imagine if the board of directors would have been willing to have the hard conversations at Blockbuster, there probably wouldn't have been a Netflix. Imagine if Steve Jobs just backed down from all the hard conversations. There would be no Apple. One organization was not willing to have the hard conversations. Another one, the man is known for the hard conversations and the relentless pursuit of the customer engagement experience. So make sure you're having the hard conversation. And listen, a disagreement is not the person, it's a situation. A disagreement is not the person, it's a situation. So you need to have people around you to where you can agree to disagree and have the conversation so that you are continuously married to your mission and not your model. The other part to what I've found the last 16 years is we as organization leaders cannot allow the model to be the roadblock just because the model got us to where we are. I'm going to say that again. You cannot allow the model to be the roadblock because that paved the way for success for where you're sitting right now. The internet is full of businesses that did that exact same thing, that they were super successful. That model paved the way for their success. And now they're no longer in business. We have to be an organization. We have to be a people. We have to be leaders that understand what got us here will not get us there. And it's hard. It is extremely hard to have those hard conversations. It's hard to buck up against the board of directors, being respectful, but saying, I don't believe this is what's best for the mission. I don't believe this is what's best for the organization. And how we like to do it at Roc Solid Foundation is we wrestle to the ground, protecting the mission, but we hug on the way up. And those are the people that you need around you in any type of business. You don't want a bunch of yes men. You don't want a bunch of people that are settling for the status quo. Why? Because the world is changing. Status quo does not change the world. The significance of this conversation, to marry your mission and not your model, is that there is someone out there waiting on what you have to provide for them. And if you selfishly sit and be uncomfortable in this model world, you're letting your mission down. And that is not okay. And that's why it is so important to understand the difference between your mission, to understand the difference between your model, identify what's working, what's not working, have the hard conversations, and make sure that you are relentlessly pursuing your mission, not your model. And guys, that's just a tip of the iceberg of what I have on this topic. But I want to make sure, that we know the difference between the mission and the model. The mission is why you exist. The model is how you accomplish the mission. And then how to identify and how to work through if you are married to your model and not your mission, and how to get back on track. Get away from the people that say it's always been done this way. Make sure you're looking at your numbers. You have that annual evaluation meeting, and you have the hard conversations. If you can start there, I promise you that will set you on a trajectory to make sure that your mission is so much bigger than yourself that will have the broad strokes to accomplish and to pour out significance, to where the model points to the success of the organization, the mission points to the significance. So I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I got a lot more to come on this topic, but as always, it is my honor that you chose to spend some time with me today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Let me know where you are listening from. And the other thing is, if you have any feedback for me, you can email me at eric@rocsolidfoundation.org and give me your feedback on this. If there's different episodes that you want to hear, I would be honored to hear from you. And again, we don't take this lightly. Thank you for joining us to helping teach the world to be successful, to truly pour out significance. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon.